Hello, friends and family. Welcome again to the Voice of Transformation, the podcast that helps you to become the best version of yourself so that you can live the meaningful and purposeful life. And if you are new to this, we normally go into different aspects of life, but mostly we talk about financial freedom, spiritual growth, cultural diversity, and motivation. And today's topic, we're going to talk about mental health or mental illness. I know this is something that's not common. Many people we don't likely to talk about, but believe me, it's something that really has a huge impact in our life. So, but before we dive into that, allow me to welcome the guest of today. And this is the person I can say who truly changed my spiritual life because of his wisdom, knowledge that he has. Please join me and welcome Senator.
Yeah.
Hey, good
Hey.
to see you, man.
How's it going? It's good.
Good.
Yeah, thanks again
Yeah, how are
for the
you?
invitation. I'm doing well, man. I'm getting excited and ready for the holidays. Like I told you, getting ready for a wedding and all of that, man. It's going home to Atlanta. It's good. It's good right now. Yeah.
Oh, wow. How is your family?
Family is good. Family is doing really well. Like I said, fiance is doing well. We're working on some renovation and house projects and getting excited, wedding stuff bit by bit. It's a lot going on, but I'm looking forward to the holiday rest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You told me that you're going to have a wedding, right?
Yeah, Valentine's Day.
Oh, man,
Yeah,
that's
it's big.
good.
It's big time. That's the big show, big stage. It's
That's
good.
a good way to start the year.
It is a good way to start the year.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
happening.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here, and thank you so much for for everything. So, and I know this is something that I can say your daily work because that's what you do, and that's why I say you can be the best person to help this. And to be honest, it is something that I can say I didn't give much value about like mental health, mental illness. I could just think it's something but when I was doing like research on the biggest problem that that prevent people from achieving their goals,
Right.
mental health was among of the biggest. Why? Because if you don't have the health mental, how are you able to act in life?
Right.
So
right.
which means I can say it's the root cause, or it is it's the foundation of the life.
Mm.
So that's why I say we have to talk about this topic. But before maybe we dive into that, so I just want you you do a simple introduction about
For
yourself
sure.
so people can know you, where you're grown up, and just people to know about you.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Senator Scott. Yes, that is my real name, Senator Scott. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and been living here in the Pacific Northwest, specifically in the state of Washington, since fall of 21. So now that's been officially 4 years, going on 5 years. Moved here to finish up seminary, which I attended in Portland Seminary, and also to finish up my career as a middle school and high school teacher. Did that and then landed the job working for Eastside Academy as chaplain and dean of students. Eastside Academy is a small Christian therapeutic alternative high school that services students who have struggled with finding meaning and value in their traditional school settings, but also have struggled through addiction, abuse, abandonment, as well as mental health crisis.
Oh wow, that's so deep.
Yeah.
So tell us more about how your journey started about working with these people who have mental problem.
Yeah, well, specifically in working with adolescents in general, both from an education standpoint, a youth ministry standpoint, and even within this current setting in a therapeutic alternative school, a lot of that comes from my own personal story as a troubled teenager and adolescence, just really struggling to find identity, wrestling with addiction throughout my adolescent and even young adult life, and really seeking purpose. I think from a spiritual standpoint, what God calls me and continues to invite me into this work
Yeah.
is because Jesus has been the saving grace and the anchor point for my mental health, for my mind state and my soul, since the age of 20. And that's and then the education piece is that one of the first things that I heard the Lord say when my journey began with Jesus, when I first said yes. And I say my first time saying yes to Jesus, because I feel like my life over the past 20 years has been a reoccurring series of saying yes and recommitting and re-surrendering to the Lord. But the first thing I heard the Lord say to me was, Senator, I'll redeem the time. And I hadn't read Paul. I hadn't read Ephesians 5. I didn't really know that was scripture. But it seemed to me like, man, that looks like picking up from the last place that I started, right before I detoured and began to self-sabotage. And so I remember as a kid, like doing well in school, enjoying school, finding school as a safe place, as a place in which I could shine, where there was beginning to become a path of identity and success and gifts and calling for myself. So I got my GED at the age of 19, attended a community college there in Clarkson, Georgia, and then transferred out of there and into undergrad. And soon as I finished college, ended up landing a job as a fourth grade teacher at a Christian private school in East Atlanta, and then just kind of was off to the races from there, and continued to teach school from different parts of Atlanta into Mexico, North Carolina, and then eventually even here. So long story less long, working with young people has been an important part of my calling, because as a young person and struggling with all of those various things that face young people now have been a big part of my own personal story. So,
yes. And I think that is the very biggest, things, because if it is something that you have been through, you are able to know how to help the people. But I still wondering, what it causes you to have that mental problem? Was it the family? Was it what was the cause, and what was the life you were living in from that time?
Yeah. So when I first began to fall into using substances, I was around the age of 13. And I remember my parents got divorced when I was 2. But I remember there being some changes going on in my family life, stuff going on with my dad. I kind of would spend most of my time, like my mom raised me, and I grew up, my mom's child, living in that home with my mom and mom's side of the family. But my dad was still present, right? And just being able to hang out with him on the weekends or have summer, there was still a lot of identity that I was searching and slowly beginning to get from my father. But my father had made some decisions that kind of had him separated and taken away from me. And there was just confusion, and there was a little bit of loss of direction. And I think that for a lot of young men, especially black men of color, that the father issue or the absence of that, or the disruption of that relationship can be a huge factor in it. Also, our communities sometimes. What's interesting for me is that I didn't grow up in the hood, so to speak, or whatever. I don't have that sort of story. In fact, I think I grew up in a pretty diverse community with in areas that people would say, oh, this seems unlikely, right, that you would run into these sort of problems. And so I say that to only say it doesn't have a face. Mental health, addiction, any of those things, troubled adolescence, it doesn't have a particular face. It's not a particular socioeconomic income bracket or anything. What we are finding more and more is that without there being supportive adults or an anchor or something that a young person feels like they're latching on to purpose and having a consistent drive for joy in their lives, and this is not even just young people, I think adults in general, that mental illness, mental crisis breaks within a person's mental health can happen really easily. And in a world where there's so much vying for our attention and distraction being available around every corner, it's just hard to latch back on. So I think for myself, that was one of those things, just the discontinuity of my relationship with my father, but also, the availability of distraction and drugs and things that were just I think were quick sources of joy, right? Quick sources of identity or some sort of meaning for me. And that just ended up becoming a trap and a cycle that it took a long time to get out of. And even, like I said, saying yes to Jesus for my first time still meant more healing, more work as I continued to, return to some negative habits. So I think just to even drop in a little tip right now, for anybody who might be struggling with mental health crises or mental illness, right? For those who love them also, like, realize it's a process, right? Like, relapse is a process if substance abuse is a part of it. You know, the daily grind of having to affirm and remind ourselves, like, it isn't just a one, it's not like all of a sudden like bippity boppity boo, like there's some sort of magic thing, right, that happens. I believe that the power of Jesus can do instantaneous healing and deliverance. And I've seen that happen in elements of my story. But I also know that there is work that we partner with the Holy Spirit to do, to continue to say yes and continue to like do what we can in the natural to care for ourselves. Our mental health, right, is a responsibility. And I think that that's really important for us to remember and to hold each other accountable for.
So what could you tell now maybe for the person who is, watching this and he or she might not have been, paying attention about mental problem because one of the studies I did is many people, they have mental issue, but sometimes they fail to realize that they have.
Yeah.
They just think it is some other problems and whatever, but few they recognize it is the mental illness or mental issues. So now, what could you tell now, like this person who maybe just had this like for the first time, what is mental health and how can someone recognize, oh, maybe I'm having the mental illness, and where to go?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think one thing that's important to know is that mental health is a broad term, right?
Yeah.
Mental health means our daily functioning and coping with stresses, right? The factors of our own thoughts, our feelings, our desires, how we live a well-balanced, organized mindset, right? And life. So mental health is a very broad term that also operates on a spectrum, right? So we can be functioning really fine and going through life just normal. I think life includes certain distresses, like, maybe we don't eat well, so therefore it affects our sleep, and therefore the lack of sleep could have effects on our attitude, our energy levels at work, or then our boss gets on our nerves, or there's spousal disagreements, or our children, right? Like, these common distresses are just a part of life. How do we find alternative strategies? How do we cope with them in a way? How do we take responsibility for it, right? Like, so then you can move from just like normal, perfect functioning to like, okay, now I'm coping with distress, to like, okay, now there's a crisis sort of thing, like maybe someone passes, and so now grief is there because of the loss of someone, or there's a divorce, or you lose a job, like there's crisis. We can still be functioning with the level of mental health, right? And then there's mental illness. And mental illness should be distinguished from just this broad term of mental health, because mental illness is that there's a diagnosable, right, medical, psychological issue going on in terms of, like, we could use the word disease even, right? That could be by some triggering event that creates some sort of psychotic or psychological break with reality or one's ability to function and cope. But it is something that is diagnosable, right, and comes with severe symptoms. And so some of those severe symptoms can look like aggression, violence, self-harm, or suicide ideation. It can come with addictive behavior, lying, isolation, depression, right? Mood destabilization. These sort of things are symptoms that can be diagnosed and that one should seek professional help for. And there would be like some more stronger accountability and actions that a person would do to care for themselves in that. So I think it's important that we hear the term mental health as a buzzword, but it's the same sort of thing as like talking about physical health. We can all be physically healthy, right? And yet there's a difference between physical health and then like an actual physical illness. And even though you can be healthy, we know like everyday health happens on a spectrum. Like you can be overweight and not be at your top game, right? You know what I mean? Like, and then there's obesity, like there's these different levels and degrees. So I think that part is important. So if you are experiencing the symptoms of mental illness, any of those things I just listed, or if you have a loved one or a young person who's exhibiting those symptoms, I think the first thing is to say, okay, let's actually go to a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Like, a lot of people don't realize, like, you can actually go to your primary care physician, a doctor, and talk about these symptoms, and they can give you a recommendation, right? Perhaps even a prescription for a mood stabilizer, right? Like, so you don't have to necessarily even go to therapy to be able to diagnose a mental illness. But if it is mental illness, it is diagnosable, and therefore it is a medical thing that should be addressed as such.
So I believe in your daily work, which is really related with helping, this student who suffered all this, like, kind of the problem that you have shared. For you to know how to help them, you first understand the root cause,
Right.
or the types, or what causes them to have these issues.
Right.
I'm just kind of curious to know, what are the most challenging or the most problem that you found people, they are facing? Because I believe the world we are living in, there are a lot of certain things that can lead to mental problems. So, and I'm just curious to know, what are the best problems that you found this, student have?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I think there are a few things, and the thing that's difficult when it comes to mental illness or even just mental health in general is that so many things are interdependent and interconnected. Like I gave the example before, if you're not eating right, then that's affecting your sleep, and that can affect your attitude or your overall general mental health, right? So like, it's the same thing. Some students struggle in school because they might have a learning issue, right? And that learning issue could be connected to their brain chemistry or their neurology, like, or it could just be that they're not receiving the best education possible, or that they've got just like there's all sorts of things that could be going on there. But that learning disability or that learning difference or that learning struggle could then create shame or anxiety in the classroom or about their own identity. And now they've got a mental health crisis, which isn't the same as mental illness, right? But sometimes what we see is students who are experiencing this anxiety or these mental health issues, and it's so affecting their school life, right? Or their everyday social life, that maybe now they're turning towards alcohol or drugs, or maybe there's self-harm involved, or maybe there's aggressive behavior or isolating behavior. This often is common in the students that I serve at Eastside Academy. Sometimes students are struggling also with depression. It's weird, like depression, myself, I've also struggled with depression before. And for me personally, it was connected to unresolved issues of body shame. It was connected to loneliness, right? And not maybe like I moved around a lot as a kid and then even as an adult. And so that break in like a solid foundation of community and friendships, which also my identity was kind of not secure in these things, all of that created depression as I found myself just untethered and in limbo to trying to figure out who I am and where I fit in. And I think a lot of young people, because there's so much trying to vie for their attention and their identity through social media or music or whatever the case may be, these different friend groups or how they dress, like kids are always trying on identities. This lack of like clear foundation, right? I think this is just me. I'm not a psychiatrist or anything like that, but I think that this can complement or accompany symptoms of depression when you feel like none of these things really fit, or the circumstances of my life aren't really changing and I don't know what to do. So what is most common, I find, among the students that I serve is depression, which sometimes can be connected with self-harm or suicide attempts or ideation. I see a lot of anxiety, right? And again, there's a difference between like diagnosable mental illness anxiety or some sort of anxiety disorder, and just having the everyday stresses and anxiousness and worriness that comes with life, right? Because there is a common anxiety, like Jesus says, don't be anxious about anything, but in all things, right? Like, so obviously, and I don't think back in Jesus's day, 2,000 years ago, they had what we now call modern psychology and could diagnose people with anxiety, though some of those people might exist. But there's just a common anxiety that comes with life, right? The things that we can't control. So how are we coping, right, with those daily worries and anxieties? And yet, are there some people out there who have diagnosable brain chemistry issues, right? That's creating an anxiety disorder where they are prone and prompted to unreasonable amounts of anxiety. I see students that sometimes are dealing with both. And a lot of times the way that students are trying to cope with these mental health crises or these illnesses is through substance use. And substance use comes with its own, right, bag of tricks, like lying, stealing, aggressive behavior, defense mechanisms, hiding stuff, right? And for a young person, trying to balance that relationship with adults, a supportive adult is not going to tolerate a young person lying in their home, right? It scares them, and then they end up coming right to a safer place. And this is where myself and my colleagues at Eastside Academy come in. So
wow, you talked something that's really reminds me something about anxiety and depression, which is, I think, one of the biggest challenges people they have. And I remember myself also facing that problem by the time I was actually I was still back in my country, Rwanda. Then when I finished up my high school, I really wanted to come in USA.
Yeah,
I was having the family, I was having my brother and my sister, and I really want to come in USA.
Yeah.
And I tried many times to apply for visa, but I was being rejected. Then I could see all my friends going, some they could come USA, other Canada, and all over the world. So whenever I could see them, the pictures, posting these pictures, when they're out, when they're in their life, I started questioning myself.
Yeah.
I was like, God, why don't you give me, this kind of life? I have been trusting you. I have been doing all my possible, everything that I want. But why? Is it because maybe I don't think I wasn't so much, maybe like financial problem or something like that. But I was like, why can me also can go and live the life that I want?
Right.
So then I started facing all these issues of mental depression, because whenever I could open my Instagram, see my friend has posted a picture, I could, say, oh my God, I'm behind in life. And which is, I think, many people they are facing. Whenever they see their friends, their people posting, on Instagram or social media, the life they are living in, and they are trying, to compare with the life they are living.
There you go.
They always felt they are behind.
Right.
And that is, I think, social comparison. So as you were just talking about. So then, what kind of advice I think that you can now tell like these people who always like feel behind because of, they see their friends, they have, achieved certain success because they see, their family or the people, they are like ahead of them.
Sure. Yeah, comparison is a thief of joy, right? Many of us have heard this saying before. Comparison is the thief of joy, right? I can never be happy with what's in my bowl if I'm always looking over in your bowl and being like, oh, but he got a little bit more in his bowl. And it's like, yesterday, I didn't have anything in my bowl. Today, my bowl's half full, but I'm steady looking at your bowl. I can never be grateful, right, for all of the blessings that I have right here in my hands. And so the reality is, if I can be focused on the things that give me joy, the blessings that God has for me, and not worry about what the next person is doing, right, then I actually can live a more fulfilling life, because I can only run the race that has been set before me. I can't run your race, right? And I can't wear your armor. So the blessings and the things that God has given to you are actually compatible and suitable with your identity, with your calling, right, with your personality, what God has for you. If I tried to wear your suit or tried to come over here and do what you were doing, I would be out of pocket, right? So the advice that I give people is, one, anchor yourself in something that is meaningful and that speaks to you. Get to know yourself, right? What gives you joy? What makes you come fully alive? Who are the people that are supportive of you and that call the best out of you? What are your gifts and your callings, right? What is the best way to spend and use your time? And also, I would encourage people to then be generous, right? Like if I realize that what I have in my bowl is not only like enough for me, but more than enough, because God don't just give nothing by measure. We know that He gives exceedingly abundantly more than we can dare ask, think, or imagine. So there's always more than enough. If I am open, right, to not only the gratitude that comes with what I have, but open to the more that I've been given, I can then be generous with people. And when I'm spending my time giving, when I'm spending my time being grateful, when I'm spending my time getting to know me and coming fully alive to the man that God has called me to be, I ain't got time to really be sad or depressed based on what someone else has, right? And I think social media, while being a great tool to kind of communicate and connect with people, also has this very fiendish side to it, where it preys upon our tendency to always look for that which is desirable to make us wise, or is good for food, or pleasing to the eyes. It tantalizes, right, and tempts our spirit to kind of think that we need to better our station, or that somehow we can do something more to make ourselves more than what we are, without realizing that in Christ we are more than enough, So
Wow, that is so powerful. And when you talked about becoming grateful for the life that you have, you literally again reminded me one of the saying that I can say that for now has been one of the things that I have guided my life, that say that sometimes people, we are too quick to forget that the life we are living in today is the life we wish to live in 10 years back.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you can see this is true, if you can look up the life you're living in today, it's not the life you're living in 5 or 10 years back.
You're right
this
about
is the
that.
life you're living in. I mean, now in USA, but I still, want more. I still feel like I'm behind. And actually, this is the life I was living.
All right.
I was almost, if I can just go and live in USA, that's could be the end of my problem.
But you know what, Justin? Not to cut you off, I feel like you're pointing to something that is really a powerful spiritual practice, motivational practice, and mental health practice, which is journaling, or having some sort of this could be good for social media too. If you just was to go through your pictures, like from where you were, like you said, 10 years ago when you was in Rwanda and you was looking at your friends' socials and you wanted to be in the United States or in Canada or be moving and making those decisions. Now you doing that. Right? Justin 10 years ago wanted to be you. And now you looking ahead to the Justin that you will become. Probably it won't even take you 5 years because you're doing big things, right? It's probably going to take you just a couple of years, right? But sometimes we need to have the flashback, right? To be reminded of how good God has been to us, how faithful God continues to be, right? And I think whether it's through a journal or through a photo log or through a photo, whatever we're doing, right? Vision boards, when we remind ourselves and keep track of man, I may not be, like the church folks say, I may not be where I want to be, but I sure ain't where I used to be, and I am grateful. Then I think we realize that, man, we actually have it much better than we think we do, and therefore we also can do hard things. That's one of the things I've been so grateful for in the past 4 years since moving to Washington, through the help of God and finding community and just a lot of growing pains. Like I said, failure, growth, getting up again is a part of the process. But I've discovered oh shoot, I don't look like what I've been through. I'm stronger. I can do hard things. I've had to overcome some challenges, physical challenges, mental challenges, right? Learning challenges, economic and financial challenges. And it's and I'm still here and I'm growing and getting better. And it's I can do hard things. And that sometimes comes with just the daily reflection and reminder of exactly what you're saying. The person that I am today, is the person that 10 years ago I was just praying and hoping I could be. Man, I'm grateful. This is good too, because when you start getting older like me, you know what I'm saying, and your 40s, you're man, what is it? You that in and of itself can be a source of depression. Man, I'm getting older, but you're oh, actually getting older is okay. If getting older continues to look this good, then all right, then it's gonna be great.
All right, let's now talk about the way to help with these people. Let's, for instance, say, I have discovered that I have one of the mental issues.
Sure.
So, and which I think when your student come, then you have realized all the problem that they have. So how do you help them so that people also they can know how even they can help themselves, or if there is someone who can help them?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Justin. Well, for myself as chaplain, what I offer more than anything is spiritual wisdom and formation, and so a lot of that looks like being able to be a safe place where I can hold space to listen to students. I think the greatest act of love that we most often have available to us to give to others is the service of listening, a listening ear, right? Like part of my prayer is to echo the prayer of the late, great Dr. Howard Thurman, which is, God, give me the listening ear, right? That ear that is sensitive and compassionate and patient and empathetic, and that can hold space for someone, and that's sacred. And so for students to find that and to find me be consistently available and consistently attentive to their needs in that space, I think helps them. A lot of people just, they need a soft place for their heart. So we give that there at Eastside Academy. I think also like starting to do the work for students to identify not only their feelings, because some people are just like growing in emotional intelligence, like being able to name their feelings, think about the effects that their feelings, like our emotions, we call it emotions, right? Our emotions are feelings on the inside trying to move us in a certain direction. So not only is it very helpful to be able for young people early on to start talking about their feelings and being able to name them, but start thinking about, oh, with this feeling, I feel this way. It has these body sensations, these thoughts come, these effects, right, happen from this. And so when a level of emotional intelligence can be formed, now responsibility, agency, and accountability can be formed, where young people can start taking responsibility and ownership of how they feel and the consequences and behaviors that come from those emotions, right? One of the things that, I've started doing with students at school is a behavior chain analysis, and anyone can benefit from a behavior chain analysis in whatever sort of habit, whether you're trying to learn to build a new habit or break an old habit, right? And both considering like, what are the triggers? What are triggering events that seem to like stimulate certain thoughts, body sensations, or feelings and actions in my daily life? And then thinking about what are the consequences of these actions, right? Like there might be some immediate gratification, some like short-term things that like keep me eating that plate of cookies every night, like it tastes good. But then what are the long-term consequences that are negative? Like I wake up in the morning with a stomach ache, or I get on that scale and I'm like, oh boy, this ain't what I want, right? Like, so every action has a reaction, right? There's a cause and effect, cost benefit analysis to it. And it's really powerful for young people to like begin to see that, who I am is built up of these daily choices, and these daily choices, I have power over them. Like I can actually determine the life that I wish to build by the daily accountability and agency of my thoughts and of my actions. It's like the Apostle Paul said, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, right? So even what I'm setting my mind on, how I'm thinking about how I'm thinking, right? Empowering young people with that tools is a gift. I didn't have that at a young age. A lot of our ancestors, and our parents didn't have those tools. And that's one of the things, kind of, I think what the Lord is doing, even in the midst of this national mental health crisis, is now that it's not socially taboo and it's more acceptable to talk about it, and there's more spaces we can talk about it in. Like now there's more tools, right? And our kids are growing up with a greater amount of like emotional literacy and intelligence and tools to start thinking about their habits and being able to break and form new ones. So,
oh wow, that is so much wisdom and powerful message that you have shared. So, I want you now to talk about the parents, school, the government. I believe, if I can see in my own eyes, they haven't given it much value as it is.
Yeah.
As for educating the young people, because the young people, these are, of course, as the name, they are young. They are sometimes they become emotional. Sometimes it's very hard to know how they control. Which makes sense. They are still young. They haven't gained that much power to control. So in that the parents, the school, and the government, I believe they're the one who should put much effort
Yeah.
to educate the people about that problem. So, in your experience, what could you tell now those three kind of different people that I say on how they have to take care or help the student or the kids?
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak first for like the government
Yeah.
overlapping with like
Yes.
the school system,
Yeah.
right? I think one of the biggest failures, I'll say, of our national school system is that there is not time built in a young person's day to really be able to rest
Yes.
and to regulate. Right. And what I mean by regulation is to be able to examine what I call or what is called the body budget. How much energy is being expended, right, and withdrawn from their social, mental, physical health, right, and budget on a daily basis based on what is coming in, right, in their daily life. And so to regulate means that we are properly expending the amount of energy that's necessary for the task in front of us. And some of our kids who have experienced trauma, whether that's socioeconomic trauma, like some kids are coming to school every day and they haven't eaten anything. They didn't eat anything last night. Mama ain't turned the heat on. Ain't no lights at home,
Yeah,
right?
and if they see their friends eating, they were like, why not me? So they started, questioning about themselves. They're, poor, they become from poor background and whatever, and ended up from that.
Yeah, or they end up having these other strategies to be able to meet real needs.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, all behavior for the most part is functional behavior. It may have dysfunctional effects or results, but a lot of people are doing things that actually try to just meet their needs, right? And so for kids who don't have power to choose some other things, they're scrambling, and then they're forced to come into this place and sit down and listen to like 10 different adults for 9 hours control their life, and then they got to go right back home into this place that still may not be meeting their needs without the proper time for them to like rest and repose and regulate. So what I think should be reinvented about education is, one, social emotional literacy. Young people, as I just said, should be able to have a class that teaches them how to understand their emotions, how to live an emotional and mentally healthy life. They should be able to do behavior chain analysis and start processing their habits and how they're thinking, how to track their habits, how to be able to talk and find vulnerable spaces for that. Time to rest and like read or listen to music or have extended periods of play or physical education so that they can develop habits of wellness and find their joy, right? Have pockets of that within their day, right? I think investing in counseling in school, like we have guidance counselors. Sometimes there are like therapists, occupational therapists, educational therapists, but like actual like psychological counseling, talk therapy, more investment of that in our public school spaces, and even in some of our private school spaces. Sometimes private school lacks some of this awareness as well, even with all of their finances and their resources. Sometimes they're more focused on academic rigor and excellence than they are thinking about the holistic approach of a person. This is true in church, right? We spend a whole lot of time in church talking about like, what could be the heavenly minded, deeper spiritual things. And it's like, what's more spiritual than the totality of one's physical, soulful, emotional health? I don't care how much you give in tithes or what you do at church.
Yeah.
If you go home and you yelling at your kids, the dog, the goldfish, everybody's scared of you, your wife or whatever, you are not living the Christ-centered life. This is not the life that the Spirit of God has for you, right? So I think needs to be a revived and renewed focus in what it is in our daily lives and in the spheres, especially of young people's lives, to have time to rest, to have time to repose, to have time to regulate. Just a little bit more care and sensitivity. And so the last word for that is for parents. Yes. What is it then? It doesn't take a lot of resources to really take time to listen to your kid, to really make space to practice Sabbath in your week or in your rhythms, right? To live into these, to have conversations about feelings, right? To maybe pull out, you can Google what a behavior chain analysis worksheet looks like, to start thinking about like, hey, I've noticed that you have these actions or this habit. Let's start thinking about how it got formed and what moves you to make certain decisions and what needs, right? You're trying to have met here. Yeah, and that can bring up some more freedom and some more vulnerability and more space for young people to feel like, oh, someone listens and someone cares, and there is an opportunity for me to feel free and feel normalized, right? When I have these feelings or these crises in life, they can get some strategies and some help.
Wow, that is so powerful. And actually, I think I can encourage the parents to do that, because I can say this is something all the young adults, all the young kids we normally lack. The people who can come and listen. The people,
Yeah.
because like everyone at the end of it all, we need to see someone who care about us.
Right.
Someone we can tell our feelings and be able to help.
Right.
Sometimes, when you're facing all these challenges, the solution is not like the money or whatever. Many, I can say actually 100%, we normally want like this person whom, we can just share what is going on in our life. And many of the time, parents, we overlook that.
Right.
Sitting with our kids, listening to them, writing, as you said, and go out and do some research on how you can help them.
Yeah.
So
and play, like, spend time playing, take walks, right? Exercise, think about, let's cook a meal today, right? Because then you can kind of habit stack, right? So both it's some sort of joy-filled communal experience, while at the same time choosing something healthy, right? Like there's all these sort of just fun practices that God gives us in just the everyday natural existence that can fill our lives with joy. Like I love the scripture, I think it's Psalms 34, he satisfies our lives with good things, just like the simple things of life are so available to us when we can start thinking about like, man, what are those joy-filled, abundance, fully alive moments and activities in my life that I can be grateful for and help me recognize that my bowl is a lot fuller than what I might be tempted to think it is.
Yeah, Senator, as a person who was once lived in that kind of life, using drugs, facing all these mental issues that we talked, what could you advise that could you now tell like young adults who are in this stage, searching about life, feeling, they are behind, searching about their purpose? So what is the advice that you can tell them to find a meaningful and purposeful life?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes as teenagers, it's really easy to be like, to dismiss certain techniques or what older people or what folks might tell you, because you might, that's like really hard or that's difficult. But some of this stuff, it may seem hard, but it isn't. It's only like, it's just only a moment away, or a conversation or an ask away. So any cool person, it could be an older brother, it could be a mentor, it could be someone at church, it could be a parent, right? A teacher, any supportive adult in your life that is living what really looks like joy. Like, I'm not saying that they're just cool or they dress well. Like, those things are appealing and attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, they really seem like they've got something desirable that's intrinsic, that's in who they are, right? Ask and inquire how they got there. Like, what is this joy, right, that's happening in their lives? And ask them if, you can spend some time asking them questions about how to get there, or just sharing, what's going on with you. Essentially, what I'm saying is like, ask for some help, ask for a companion in this journey called life. I'm 43 years old, right? And one of the things that I love about my work and my church community is that I have found other men that I can really be honest and do life with. Right. And I'm still trying to find community. I'm still asking for that. Right. And it's a blessing that when we ask, we receive. So I would say that. I would also ask young people to really take self-inventory and say, what are those things that make me come alive? What are those things that fill me with joy? Not canned joy, right? Canned joy are sorry substitutes that can never satisfy. I'm not talking about video games. I'm not talking about drugs. I'm not talking about social media. I'm not talking about those quick, cheap, easy dopamine hits, right? I'm talking about those things that you can spend hours and hours doing that actually I mean, not only do they require an output of your energy, but when you finish them, you feel even more alive and want to do other things. Like it catapults you in another. It could be basketball or athletics. It could be pickleball, right? It could be board games and things like that. It could be crocheting, netting, skating, swimming, like all of these different things, writing, rapping, whatever it is. Find those activities and then begin to ask yourself, what is it about this thing that gives me joy? Because it could be that the Spirit is actually trying to get you to notice a gift, a calling, an invitation for your life. And I think when you begin to discover purpose, joy is right around the corner from that. Right? I think joy is right around the corner from discovering purpose, because when we begin to discover purpose, it doesn't mean that everything will be easy, but it does mean that God will provide grace and provide the equipment and the people to help us accomplish that purpose. Right? So, we don't have to wait to be adults and grown or have it all together and have degrees or have a family or have a good job to begin to discover purpose. Purpose is as simple as beginning to notice what makes you come alive in life and beginning to ask the right people in your life to come alongside you. So I would encourage young people to do that. Let me say one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
If you're a young person and you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of mental illness, right? That extreme end of the mental health spectrum where there's isolation and addiction and self-harm or depression or any of these other things, these things are diagnosable. These things, while, you might be like, oh, that's really scary and I don't want to be labeled. Also know that if they're diagnosable and they're medical things, then they can be treated. Yeah. Right. So in that sense, ask for professional help. Say, Mom, I think I want to go to the doctor. I think I'd like to talk to a psychiatrist, or talk to a counselor at school about it, wherever you might find safety to do that. But like actually invest in self-care and be responsible for your health, because I think while we might at times be tempted to hurt ourselves, most of us don't want to hurt other people, but hurt people. And the reality is, if you find yourself hurting deeply inside, it could trigger a response where you might hurt other people. So go ahead and break that cycle, break that pathway, and go on and ask for help.
Yeah. As I think we are actually approaching to the end of our conversation, and I think, to be honest, you really shared a lot of things that I think that people can hear, and if they can be able to do practice,
right,
this can change their life. But tell us, what are the challenges that you have faced? And actually, it's one of the questions that I like to ask people, because in life, sometimes, or like every time, life is not fair. We normally meet with a challenge, and that's life. And many people, when they meet on challenge, when they are committing or they are on achieving their goals, they think the best answer is to quit.
Yeah.
But if you can go and check all the successful people, they are not the people who decided not to quit when the things get harder. So then what was your moment, or what was the challenge that you faced in life? You were like, man, I need to quit. I need to look something else. But you say, because this is something that I want, that is going to change my life, that is going to change my family, I have to keep on.
Yeah. I mean, let's think of an example. I can think of a couple of examples, right? I can say, like, even in the past couple of weeks, like, we live here in the Pacific Northwest, right? We live in Seattle, and we're in that season now where it's cold, it's dark, and it is rainy and wet. Starting from like 4 p.m., it looks like it's 10 p.m., right? And how that affects my mood, especially coming from the South and being used to like a lot of sunshine, and I think just generally like the lack of vitamin D, UV rays, all that sort of stuff, like I can see my energy level decrease.
Yes.
And then I have a job, as I've already mentioned, that requires a lot of me, requires a lot of that body budget expenditures to listen to other people, to be empathetic, to be right. So when I am not eating or sleeping right, or I'm struggling in various areas of my personal life, sometimes I just want to withdraw. I just want to isolate. I just, I don't want to talk to anybody about it. And that lack of self-care, or that lack of like finding or remembering or anchoring myself in joy and purpose, could lead to me hurting someone. right? But I'm always willing to, to make big of her. But my fiance Amanda is just so great at being a soft landing place, of being that listening ear that I mentioned earlier, being that compassionate and supportive person who will take time to hold space for me. That when I courageously share with her my feelings, and she's not there to try to fix me, she's just trying to feel me, right, and just be there for me. And I can work up the courage to say, so what am I supposed to do with this, right? I find that I get creative solutions. And so I say that to say that sometimes we can't see our way to the end by ourselves, nor do I think we're supposed to figure it all out by ourselves, right? Like, as the wise person says in Proverbs, right? Entrust your whole heart to the Lord and lean out on your own understanding. That is relying on your own insight, your own perceptions, your own efforts, your own ways of figuring out. But in every step of the journey, right? In all your ways, acknowledge him, get to know him, notice God, pay attention, desire, surrender to him, and he will make the path apparent, clear. Yashar is the Hebrew word, straight, right? And I think there's something too when I'm able to surrender my heart to God, but also like open up my heart to the creative possibilities that are present when I share with another human person, then I realize, oh, this thing that I thought was like insurmountable, like it was too big, that I just want to quit and I want to fail. I realized, oh, I was sitting here trying to climb a mountain, but there's really like an off ramp to go around the mountain. Or I didn't realize that somebody had already faced this mountain and there's actually like a secret tunnel that goes under here. Like there's so many, or you know what? I didn't even realize that I could speak to this mountain, or the mountain's not even really there. It's an illusion. You know what I mean? Like there's all these other ways I think that happen when we surrender our problems instead of trying to hold them, and surrender our heart first and foremost to God in prayer, but also to those supportive people around us. We find creative possibilities and solutions to problems that may not be as big as we thought.
Oh man, that is so awesome and so big as the reason. So two more questions.
Oh no.
To end.
I got time.
I just wanted to be real quick so that we can.
Yeah. I'll try to give a short answer.
One is, I think you shared it that you are in your 40s, right?
Yeah, 43.
So, oh wow.
I know.
Not that too old, but again, not that too young.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, what is the biggest lesson the life has taught you?
The biggest lesson
That you have?
Oh man, the biggest lesson. Let me see, Justin. The biggest lesson. I feel like this isn't the biggest lesson, but I'm gonna just share this,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
I've been saying this a lot to people, especially young people this week.
Yes.
My dad didn't give me a lot of great wisdom, but this is one that he gave me that stuck with me. He said, son, there's a difference between being right and being dead right. He said, because if you dead right, you dead, and dead people don't win arguments, right? A lot of times we're willing to die on the hill of being right. Right. And sometimes we are. Sometimes that person was wrong. Sometimes we really knew what fairness and what justice really was. Right. We had done what we thought we were supposed to do. But if we move forward without compassion, or express ourselves without respect, or we're not willing to be patient, or we're not willing to actually say what matters more is like being able to move forward in cooperation and with humility and love than me being able to be right, then I lose. I will lose every time, right? And I think young people who often feel powerless and sometimes don't have the same authority or opportunity, right, to have their own way in situations, it's a valuable lesson to know, like, I can't control everything. And actually, sometimes it's better to relinquish control in order to maintain influence, right? So I rather be righteous than be right. I rather relinquish control, because most times control is an illusion anyway. I can only control myself, I can't control everything else. I'd rather relinquish control so that I can maintain influence. I'd rather be righteous than be right. So
from everything that you shared today, what is one or two advice that you could leave with our audience or with our listener to pick up and go practice in their own life.
Yeah. Spend some quiet time with yourself and with the Lord. Like, carve out intentional time, right? Wherever you are in that mental health spectrum. I believe a person who's doing high functioning, great, sunshine, rainbows sort of mental health spectrum to the other end of it, right? Where you might be struggling with mental health illness. Take time in silence and in solitude to breathe, to hear yourself, to regulate, right? To listen to the voice of the Lord, right? And be reminded that you are deeply and dearly loved. Start your day with that. Carve out time after a hard day of work to rejuvenate your spirit with that. Do that before you go to bed, right? Get some time in quiet. And then also find a person in your life that is, that you feel like is full of joy, not just like they got a fancy car or all this other type of stuff, but like, no, they live with a smile on their face, a pep in their step, and a positive mindset, and say, hey man, I want to buy you a cup of coffee, or let's hang out sometime and shoot hoops, whatever it is that you do, and actually like talk to them, open up to them about what you're searching for in your life, the joy that you want. Ask them how they got that joy for themselves. And lastly, I would say don't be scared to ask for help, right? Like that's one of the last thing I was saying. Like, find a person also. It might be that same person, right? But ask for help, whether you might need it with mental health crises or whatever, but just like a person that will also give you the time of day to be a listening ear.
Oh, wow. And if I can share mine too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Let me also try to share mine. I can say that's really helped me to, to manage all this social anxiety. It is that sometimes it is okay not to be okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, it is okay not to be okay.
Yeah,
I read that and it's really changed my mind, because sometimes when you feel like frustrated or angry, feel like there is something that is going on in your life, but that's okay. That's life. It happened. It just means there is something that goes the way you didn't expect.
Right.
And it can come today and just end tomorrow.
Right.
So what you have to do, it's always to focus on, what is the next. And the second is, don't try to compare your life
that's so good.
with social highlight, with your reality. Everything that we see on social media, there is a slight thing of the part of the people, the life they are living in.
Right.
Not like the whole life.
Right.
Because if you can go and see the life they are living in, oh my God, sometimes even you can't wish to go to live that kind of life. But they just go post the shorts, the highlight. So don't try, to compare your life with, some shorts or the highlight of the life of people
that's
they are
good.
living in. All right, guys, I think this is all that we have for you, and I think it's gonna help you to live the meaningful and purposeful life. And please, before we end this, allow me to ask you a favor. If it is your first time, please do subscribe, share, and just give us the suggestion of the topics of the guests that we would love to see you here. But otherwise, love you. See you in the next episode. Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.